Devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Sri Prabhupada. Today we'll continue to hear from Sukadeva Goswami two other annihilations out of the four that is described, and specifically how to see connection of everything with Krishna that is described, and the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam is described as the Parikshit Maharaj. Sukadeva Goswami is concluding his narration to Parikshit Maharaj like that. Yeah. Who's reading today? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Bhuvan, I am reading.
Hare Krishna, bro. Yeah, please start to whenever you're ready.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naranjaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtikim. Today I am reading from Cantor 12, chapter 4, from text 23 onwards. Text 23. It is absolute truth alone who manifests in the forms of intelligence, the senses, and the objects of sense perception, and who is their ultimate basis. Whatever has a beginning and an end is insubstantial because of being an object perceived by limited senses and because of being non-different from its own cause. Text 24. A lamp, the eye that views by the light of the lamp, and the visible form that is viewed are all basically non-different from the element of fire. In the same way, intelligence, the senses, and the sense perceptions have no existence separate from the supreme reality, although that absolute truth remains totally distinct from them. Text 25. The three stages of intelligence are called walking consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep. But, my dear king, the variegated experiences created for the pure living entity by these different states are nothing more than illusion. Text 26. Just as clouds in the sky come into being and are then dispersed by the amalgamation and dissolution of their constituent elements. This material universe is created and destroyed within the absolute truth by the amalgamation and dissolution of its elemental constituent parts. Text 27. My dear king, it is stated in the Vedanta Sutra that the ingredient cause that constitutes any manifested product in this universe can be perceived as a separate reality, just as the threads that make up a cloth can be perceived separately from their product. Text 28. Anything experienced in terms of general cause and specific effect must be an illusion, because such causes and effects exist only relative to each other. Indeed, whatever has a beginning and an end is unreal. Text 29. Although perceived, the transformation of even a single atom of material nature has no ultimate definition without reference to the Supreme Soul. To be accepted as factually existing, something must possess the same quality as pure spirit, eternal, unchanging existence. Text 30. There is no material duality in the absolute truth. The duality perceived by an ignorant person is like the difference between the sky contained in an empty pot and the sky outside the pot, or the difference between the reflection of the sun in water and the sun itself in the sky, or the difference between the vital air within one living body and that within another body. Text 31. According to their different purposes, men utilize gold in various ways, and gold is therefore perceived in various forms. In the same way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inaccessible to material senses, is described in various terms, both ordinary and Vedic, by different types of men. Text 32. Although a cloud is a product of the sun and is also made visible by the sun, it nevertheless creates darkness for the viewing eye. which is another partial expansion of the supreme, sorry, expansion of the sun. Similarly, material false ego, a particular product of the absolute truth made visible by the absolute truth, obstructs the individual soul, another partial expansion of the absolute truth, from realizing the absolute truth. Text 33. When the cloud originally produced from the sun is torn apart, the eye can see the actual form of the sun. Similarly, when the spirit soul destroys this material covering of false ego by inquiring into the transcendental science, he regains his original spiritual awareness. Text 34. My dear Parikshit, when the illusionary false ego that binds the soul has been cut off with the sword of discriminating knowledge and one has developed a realization of Lord Achyuta, the Supreme Soul, this is called the Atyantika, or ultimate annihilation of material existence. Text 35. Experts in the subtle working of the nature, O subduer of the enemy, have declared that there are continuous processes of creation and annihilation, that all created beings, beginning with Brahma, constantly undergo. Text 36. All material entities undergo transformation and are constantly and swiftly eroded by the mighty currents of the time. The various stages of existence that material things exhibit are the perpetual causes of their generation and annihilation. Text 37. These stages of existence created by beginless, beginningless, and endless time, the impersonal representative of the Supreme Lord, are not visible, just as the infinitesimal momentary changes of position of the planets in the sky cannot be directly seen. Text 38. In this way, the progress of time is described in terms of four kinds of annihilation: continuous, occasional, elemental, and final. Text 39. O best of Gurus, I have related to you these narrations of the pastimes of Lord Narayana, the creator of this world and the ultimate reservoir of all existence, presenting them to you only in brief summary. Even Lord Brahma himself would be incapable of describing them entirely. Text 40. For a person who is suffering in the fire of countless miseries and who desires to cross insurmountable ocean of material existence, there is no suitable boat except that of cultivating devotion to the transcendental test for the narrations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's pastimes. Text 41. Long ago, this essential anthology of all Puranas was spoken by the infallible Lord Narnarayana Rishi to Narada, who then repeated it to Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa. Text 42. My dear Maharaja Parikshit, that great personality, Srila Vyasadeva, taught me this same scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is equal in stature to the four Vedas. Text 43. O best of Gurus, the same Sutta Goswami who is sitting before us will speak this Bhagavatam to the sages assembled in the great sacrifice at Naimisharanya. This he will do when questioned by the members of assembly headed by Shaunaka. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Praveen. Hare Krishna. So it's a little bit philosophical section, but it is a valuable lessons for us in this section. It's a wonderful section though still. So basically, the context was Parikshit Maharaj asked in the last chapter a few questions. The chapter questions were like, tell me about the different ages, like Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Kali Yuga, and tell me about the special characteristics of those years, and then tell me about the durations of the cosmic maintenance and annihilation, like that. That portion, annihilation portion, is what is being described here. And then he also asked about the movements of time that will be described in the next chapter. This is all coming from the previous chapter questions of Parikshit Maharaj to Sukadeva Goswami. Now, in this chapter, so far we heard about two kinds of annihilations already. One is the Naimittika or occasional annihilation. that was described at the end of the day of Lord Brahma, during the night of Lord Brahma. And then we also heard almost, till the last verse of yesterday, that second type of annihilation, which is Prakritika annihilation, which is primarily at the end of the whole life of Lord Brahma. That's what we heard so far, two of them annihilation so far. The third annihilation is interesting and very philosophical, but I want to give the summary so you can follow along. Even if you don't understand the whole details, the summary of this section is this. Summarize the third annihilation is nothing but uh, we as living entities are currently, because of the false ego, we're not able to see our real position as a part and parcel of Krishna and as a servant of Krishna. That is our current condition, most of us. Then the real annihilation is removing of that covering and being able to see the real position of Krishna, real position of ourselves as servant of Krishna, and being situated in that service position to Krishna. That stay situating in that constitutional position is the real annihilation described here, or complete annihilation also, another word is used also. So that is a summary of this section. In order to describe that this principle that we are covered by false ego currently, and removal of the covering and seeing our real position and Krishna's real position and situating in his service is the real annihilation. To do that, few things are described. I'm giving the summary so that way you can follow along the thread when we go to the verses. So then, to do that, first is described how exactly we are being caught by false ego. What does it look like? Some examples are given like that. And then how that false ego covering can be cleared up by the mercy of Krishna. That also is explained with some examples of clouds, for example, like that. So that's how this section proceeds to conclude that. Essentially, 11th canto message is also seeps into this, which is seeing everything in connection with Krishna. That's also one of the prominent messages that come in this section. Yeah, you go through that section. So basically, we're in 23rd verse, I think. 23rd verse. Basically, here first is describing this section of verses are first describing how Supreme Lord, Absolute Truth, is the basis of everything we see. That is where this initial set of verses are talking about. He says, Absolute Truth alone, who manifests in the form of intelligence, senses, and objects of sense perception, and who's their ultimate basis. The point is that everything gross and subtle manifestations that we see around us are because of Supreme Lord, Absolute Truth. There is a point being made here. So, however, uh, so now, how is that described here with three things? Intelligence and senses, and then sense objects. These three things are described. In essence, they're covering everything with this basically, because everything we see are in one sense sense objects. Then, with the intelligence and with the senses that we have, we can perceive those sense objects. In that sense, they're covering everything in the material creation basically. Is Krishna is the source of them basically. Now, other thing acharyas describe is this section of verses are focusing on oneness of everything with Supreme Lord, and some impersonalists take it as oneness with Brahman. See, everything is same as Brahman. So they're equal, they're same like that. But our acharyas clearly confirm to us how to understand these verses. So it's very clear that everything is coming from Krishna, Krishna's energies, and everything is a transformation of Krishna's energies. That is true. But Krishna is, as absolute truth, is still separate from everything. He has a separate existence always. That's the point our Acharya stress in this section also. Now going to the next verse, 24th verse. Another example is given. A lamp, the eye that views the light of the lamp and the visible form that is viewed are all basically not different from elemental fire. That's the analogy being given, how everything is in one sense fire like that, because without the light we cannot see anything. In that sense, they're all same in that point of view is describing. Similarly, intelligence, senses, and sense perceptions have no existence separate from supreme reality. So somebody can say, oh, see, that means they're all Brahman. like that. So point here is being stressed is their basis is absolute truth, not that they are absolute truth. That is the distinction acharyas make for this verse. Now going to the text 25, the three states of intelligence called waking consciousness, sleep, and deep sleep. These are the three states of consciousness. The variated experiences created for the pure living entity by these different states are nothing more than illusion. Okay, this is again another caution. Is interesting in our scriptures that many references to tell that whatever we're seeing in the material world is temporary. That means it's existing for some time relatively and not existing for some time. That's the principle Prabhupada keeps sharing. But the spiritual world is eternal and permanent like that. So now what is different from this is sometimes the word unreal, illusion is also used for the referring to temporary. Everything existing is temporary. So unreal versus real, the way scriptures define and Prabhupada explains it is, real means something that is existing permanently, eternally all the time. Unreal means something that is existing only for a short time like that. That is one way of describing real and unreal. It doesn't mean that unreal, when Shastra is describing sometimes, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's really illusion and we're just imagining things. Not like that. That's a Mayavadi understanding, it seems. So that's Prabhupada clarifies in Bhagavad Gita also. So here the same section to be, we should be careful about. Now, that 26th verse is said, this Sukadeva Goswami describing to Parishad Maharaj, just as clouds in the sky come into being, clouds are created with the water vapor or whatever that comes made up of, and then finally it is disseminated. That means it becomes water vapor again. Cloud is gone. Similarly, material universe is created with the elements and then destroyed by the absolute truth. That's what is describing here. That means absolute truth is the Supreme Lord, is the real controller of everything, basically. That's the point. Now, next 27th verse. The ingredient cause that constitutes any manifested product in this universe can be perceived as a separate reality, just as the threads that make up a cloth can be perceived separately from this product. So nice analogies. Basically, let us say we take a cloth and cloth has bunch of threads. In one sense, I can say cloth is existing and the threads also have a separate existence also because they have their own individuality like that. That's what this verse is talking about. Similarly, we can say the material different causes, ingredient causes are there that we can see in the material world. They also have a living. They also have separate existence that we can say. But the next verse will explain more. Anything experienced in terms of general cause and specific effect must be an illusion because such causes and effects are relative to each other. Indeed, whatever has a beginning and an end is unreal. Unreal means temporary. That's the point. So here, nice examples are given in the purport to understand this principle, what they're talking about the verse, which is very, very philosophical. So the purport is explaining nicely. So let us say we have fire, and if fire is burning the cloth, then fire is the cause, and the effect of it is burning. So we can really see the fire's potency as a cause when we see the burning of the cloth like that. So that means cause is dependent on the effect, like that is described in the purport. Similarly, the effect, so cause is depending on the effect. Similarly, effect is depending on the cause is said. That means when we see the fire burning the cloth, then we see, oh, that is because of the fire. That fire what gave this burning effect like that. So basically, these both don't have any existence without each other like that. That's the point being made. Cause and effect, material cause and effect. That means they're only related to each other. But ultimately, everything is caused by one absolute truth. That is the point being made here. So then some more examples are given in the purport, like saturating quality of a water we can see when a cloth fully absorbs the water, a sponge fully absorbs the water like that. And the ordination power of a man, we can see when they create a wonderful institution that is coordinated and everybody cooperates with each other like that. Then we can see organizing effect of a person like that. So basically, not only the effects depend on the causes, but the perception of the cause also depends on effect also. So, but both are relative to each other. The conclusion is that all such material causes and effects are essentially temporary and relative, and consequently illusory. Illusory not in the sense that it is not happening, I'm imagining. Illusory in the sense that it's temporary. That's the point, not permanent. So, but on the other hand, Supreme Lord has no beginning and end, and he is the cause of all causes. So, basically, point made is Lord Krishna's opulences and potencies are the absolute reality, not temporary reality, but absolute reality beyond the interdependence of the material cause and effect like that. So, that is the point being made here. So, see, if you notice the thread, essential thread is how even everything we see has a connection to Krishna. He's a cause, he's the basis of everything like that. That's the point. Now, text 29. It says, to be accepted as factually existing, something must possess the same quality as pure spirit, eternal, unchanging existence. So, basically, here, everything is existing in this world because it has a connection with Supreme Lord. That is the point being stressed in this verse and purport also. So, then text 30 describes there is no material duality in absolute truth. So, essentially, there's a couple of analogies given. The duality perceived by an ignorant person is like the difference between the sky in the empty pot and the sky outside the pot. So both are sky only. Sky means ether. Both are ether only. The space element within the pot and outside the pot also. Similarly, Krishna is same. Krishna doesn't have a duality like that. That's what is described in this verse basically. So now text 31. Another analogy is given about gold. How gold can be called gold earrings, gold rings, like that, different names they can give, but the essential substance is gold only. Similarly, Supreme Lord can be described in various terms, both by ordinary means and Vedic terms, by different types of men using for different purposes with different motivations, like that is described in the verse there basically. There's only one Supreme Lord. He can be perceived by in different forms with the different names by different people, like that is described. This is not talking about demigod worship, it's talking about like Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan realization aspects. Now, next verse, text 32. Yeah. So basically, somebody might have a question. Oh, we jivas were coming from Krishna, Supreme Lord. We're spiritual in nature. How come we are being covered by false ego? How is that possible? That is the question being answered by Sukadeva Goswami here. Here is saying, with an analogy of the cloud and sun, we'll understand here. All the cloud is a product of the sun. Cloud is created by sun. How? Sun is evaporating all the water from the oceans and seas and is creating the cloud. So cloud is created by sun and is also made visible by the sun, because only when sunlight comes we can see the cloud. And then if sun is not there, if there's no light for us to see, we cannot see the cloud. So sun is making the cloud come and sun is allowing us to see the cloud also. It nevertheless creates darkness for the viewing eye, which is another partial expansion of the sun. What is creating darkness? The cloud. Even though sun is giving the power to see cloud, sun is only creating the cloud, but the same cloud created by sun is stopping our view of the sun also. It's acting as a covering, so we cannot see the sun also. So like that is describing. So now, similarly, material false ego. That is similar to in the analogy, it's similar to the cloud. And the sun is similar to a Supreme Lord. And the eye is similar to Jiva in the analogy. Similarly, material false ego, a particular product of the absolute truth, like the cloud is a product of sun, made visible by the absolute truth. Yeah, false ego, we can understand it, obstructs the individual soul, like cloud is covering our vision. False ego obstructs the individual soul. Another partial expansion of absolute truth, like how is the partial expansion, I is a partial expansion of sun, Jiva is a partial expansion of Krishna. So our vision is covered. Similarly, false ego is covering our vision of the Supreme Lord, Absolute Truth. That's how covering is happening. It's possible to happen like that is described in this verse. Now, the solution is also described in the next verse. When the cloud originally produced from the sun is torn apart, cloud is torn apart, then I can see the actual form of the sun. When the cloud is gone, similarly, when the spirit soul destroys his material covering of false ego, by inquiring into the transcendental science, he regains his original spiritual awareness that we can see Krishna. So here Acharyas explain one beautiful point. One is that as for the cloud to go away, actually it goes away with sunlight only, heat and light of the sun. Because of the heat of the sun, cloud will go away also. So similarly, only by Krishna's mercy, our false ego covering can go away. And with our endeavor is accomplished. With our endeavor, we're trying to acquire transcendental knowledge, but ultimately, only because of Krishna's mercy, that cloud of false ego can disappear from our life. And Acharyas also comment on this, that only with the element of bhakti this is possible, not just with understanding. Oh, I am covered with false ego. I need to, and I'm clear now. Everything is related to Krishna, so I need to see Krishna and everything. So that gnana alone cannot help it. Gnana, even person practicing gnana, bhakti element should come. Then only Krishna's mercy will come and tear away that cloud of false ego is described like that. That's another point. So another important point described in the purport is, let us say Krishna is all powerful. He can tear away that false ego for us. But let us say I want to endeavor to understand that and acquire the transcendental knowledge and develop that understanding, that perception. Then that is possible. But let us say I'm like an owl. Owl apparently is a night animal, right? Nocturnal animal, something they call it. But so basically, that means they don't like to see the sunlight, it seems. So that's why they don't open their eyes much in the morning time. So if I'm like the owl, even though sunlight is there, I don't want to see, then Krishna cannot help me. That's what other point being made here. That is, if somebody who's not interested in spiritual knowledge, they will never receive the privilege of seeing the God like that. So that's another aspect. That means there's an aspect of my endeavor and my desire, my aspiration, and my endeavor is there, along with the important element of mercy of Krishna, who can actually dissipate the covering of the false ego. This is similar to the Daiviyeshi, Gunamayi, Maya, Duratya, that was from Bhagavad also. So it's very difficult to overcome, but somebody who takes shelter of me, I'll take care of it like that. Same thing is described in different words. 728. Okay. 34th verse. Here, yeah. So here is concluding this section, because remember this whole section is talking about the third type of annihilation. Is concluding this section saying that when that illusory false ego that binds the soul has been cut off with what? With the sword of discriminating knowledge, and one has developed the realization of Lord Achyuta Krishna or Super Soul. This is called Atyantika or ultimate annihilation of material existence. This is the third type of annihilation. So real annihilation is situating back into our constitutional position, having the realization and being situated in that realization of absolute truth like that. So now, text 35. Experts in the subtle workings of nature have declared, now is going to the fourth type of annihilation, that experts have declared that there are continuous processes of creation and annihilation that all created beings, beginning with Brahma, constantly undergo. Basically, there's a constant annihilation that is happening, continuous annihilation that is happening. What is that? Is described in the next verse. All material entities undergo transformation and are constantly and swiftly eroded by the mighty currents of time. By the influence of time, everything is changing constantly. So, in the following verse, these states of existence created by beginningless and endless time are not visible, but the infinitesimal momentary changes of position of the planets, just as planets are moving in the sky, but we cannot directly see it like that. There's the analogy being given. That is, I think, described in, yeah, this purport describes it more clearly. The simple energy, third canto also similar principle is described. Basically, my nails are growing, my hair is growing. Actually, they're growing moment by moment. But I can only see after a few days, oh, my nails are grown, my hair has grown, like that. But moment by moment, the growing is happening, transformations are happening. So, but we are not able to see. The analogy given is sun is already always moving in the sky, but I cannot see that sun is moving. Similarly, this constant annihilation is happening. That is the point being made here. Now, 30th verse. In this way, progress of time is described. Now he's concluding the whole section, all four types of annihilation. Four kinds of annihilation. Progress of time. Movement of time is what he asked, right? Movement of time is described in terms of four kinds of annihilation. What are those? Continuous annihilation, the one that we described just now. And then occasional annihilation, the first one we described, which is at the end of the day of Brahma. Then elemental annihilation, that's all the foundational elements are gone back, which is the at the end of the life of Brahma. And then final annihilation, which is when we are covering of false ego is gone, and when we understand the realization of Krishna and situate in that realized position in his service, like that. That is the final annihilation. So that he concludes this section. Now, Sukadeva Goswami, in one sense, is concluding the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, entire Srimad Bhagavatam. If you notice, Srimad Bhagavatam is such a vast literature, it concluded with these things, this section of annihilation. That's interesting. We'll hear about that from Acharya's commentary also. So now, text 39 describes, I related to all these narrations of the past tense of Lord Narayana. Only in brief summary, he says, even Lord Brahma himself would be incapable of describing them entirely. So nobody can describe the whole past tense of Supreme Lord, everything. So I described only summary, like that is describing. Now somebody may say, oh, we cannot describe, then we should not describe. Somebody may say. So the point is that we cannot describe fully, that doesn't mean we should not describe partially. That's the point shared in the by Acharyas. Next verse it describes 40th verse. For a person who is suffering in the fire of countless miseries and who desires to cross the insurmountable ocean of material existence. We are suffering so much with material miseries, and if you want to really cross over the material existence, then we should take the suitable boat of what? Of cultivating devotion to the transcendental taste for the Krishna Katha, narrations of the Supreme Lord's pastimes. So purport clarifies the point I was talking about. Although it's not possible to completely describe everything about the pastimes of Supreme Lord, even a partial appreciation can save us from the miseries of material existence and can take us to the spiritual world. The fever of material existence can be removed only by the medicine of holy name and pastimes of the Supreme Lord, which are in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam essence is concluded in this verse. Basically, hearing and chanting is the most important aspects. And Jiva Goswami comments, just because this verse is talking about hearing, don't think that is the only thing we should do. He says hearing is the first and most important thing in the devotion service, out of the 9 process of devotion service. Because only by hearing we understand, oh, I need to chant the holy name. Oh, I need to remember Supreme Lord. So that's the starting point and the most important point. So we should focus on hearing regularly and as much as possible, like that Jiva Goswami comments in this verse. So I think I'll pause here. It's 7:34 already. The only 3 verses we'll cover tomorrow. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Sri Prabhupada ki jai. Let's offer obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kupasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.